All right, is this thing on? Are we on the internet? All right, very, very cool. Well, first off, thank you to the Neon Temple for having me out this evening to this fantastic setup and studio to share tonight's discussion. So real quickly, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Singer. I run our professional services team for all things SIM and SOAR over at GuidePoint Security. It's my day job. I have a lot of fun with it. But after hours, I really like putting together discussions to share with the community, to teach. And I'm really big into crypto. If you remember, I did give a mining talk, actually, a bit back. And so as you can tell, I have a bit of a theme here. Tonight's discussion, just as you can guess, and probably the main reason you're here, is to get some awesome Bored Ape Yacht Club and make millions of dollars in fake internet money. But no, really, what the fuck are NFTs anyways? And that's actually a really important question. I personally think it's very critical to understand the underlying technology, how this stuff works, and why we should care in the first place. So if everybody's good with that, I'll go ahead and kick this thing off. So please join me in following the great adventure of WTF, our NFTs. I like to give a very serious disclaimer first. Similar to my previous crypto talks and anything related to fake internet money. Big disclaimer, this can go horribly wrong really fast. So, in all good legal advice, I just want to make sure that everybody understands what we're covering this fine evening during this recorded talk is just a small portion of what's going on out there on the internet. And I'm serious, we are only barely touching the tip of the iceberg and highlighting some of the features, the technologies, and the capabilities in the NFT and crypto space. So consider this your starting point. I venture you to learn a lot more than anything I'm talking about tonight. So with that in mind, you can go broke really quick. This is not a game. This is not something to mess around with. It is very serious. And so, so if you don't fully understand what you're doing with this stuff, it can hurt financially and in other ways too. As we always say in the biz, do your own research, and that doesn't mean Googling things. It means seeking professional advice. And then finally, I'm not licensed in the state of Florida to provide financial advice, nor am I able or licensed to provide any advice with realms to investments. And viewer discretion is advised. All right, with that, we're going to ride this train all the way to zero, and let's see what that looks like. Our agenda for tonight, okay, we're going to talk about a couple of foundations. Again, very important to just lay that kind of information out there. I do want you to understand, for the sake of the most part of this, what a blockchain is, right? All right. Again, that can go off on a very weird tangent. I'm going to introduce this concept of Web3, right? And you're probably thinking to yourself, I didn't even know there was like a Web 1 and 2. Well, surprise, we're on Web 3. And it's really interesting. In fact, the way we're kind of changing the concept of the authentication game with Web 3. All right, and then we're going to kick it into some definitions, because what's a talk without some good old understanding and definitions of what these terms mean? What does NFT even stand for, right? Okay, I want to get into stuff like utility. Utility is, I think, very important, right? Why do something? Why have something if it doesn't necessarily have maybe a purpose or a use or a function? Okay, I mean, I get it. Look, we all did Pokemon cards. In fact, some of us still do Pokemon cards, but that doesn't mean that they don't have utility. And so we'll explore some of the kind of intricacies of that and some of the fun aspects of where I think things are going with NFTs and maybe what's going on in the real world too. All right, we'll continue on to almost like the main reason maybe why we're here tonight. Let's talk about some art. It's the most popular perspective on NFTs, and you know, it's always fun. You know, if everybody has met Chris over here, with Neon Temple, you know that art is really important to him. And so, if art is important to you and if having fun with it is and getting creative is, then you're definitely in for a treat with this. So I think we are ready to really lose some money. All right, and blockchain. What is blockchain, right? Whoa, Bitcoin, all this kind of cool stuff. Let me kind of put you in the zone, all right? And this is the way somebody explained it to me once, and I thought it was so perfect. Now, we need to talk about wallets and keys, right? Public key, private key, if we're already into crypto, not like money, but cryptography. And so imagine, right, you're in a safety deposit box room, and is a giant wall of safety deposit boxes. And it goes off for a very long direction to the left and to the right and to the up and to the down. It's just a giant wall of safety deposit boxes. And they all have little numbers on them, little addresses, little wallets addresses. But it just so happens that all these safety deposit boxes are made out of glass. That's an interesting concept, right? And what I mean by this is you can clearly see in to what the balance is inside that safety deposit box. What's inside that wallet? But this glass doesn't mean you can touch. It just is for looking only. Now, we can determine this wallet has this much in it, and this wallet has this much in it. In fact, we can explore as much as we want to look at the balances of any of these glass wallets. All right? And that's kind of the basis of what's going on in a blockchain, right? And each of these safety deposit boxes made out of glass has a little deposit slip in it, right? That allows anybody at any time to make a deposit or a transaction into that address or that wallet, okay? But the big question here is, how do you take something out of it? Well, you need the key, right? You need your private key. You need the ownership of that wallet address. And that's how you take something out of it. And so hopefully this is a really good visual primer as to what's happening on a standard cryptocurrency blockchain. Now again, there's all kinds of nuances to this, and it can differ greatly depending on technology. But the real simple basis of this is that an owner of a wallet holds their key to open up their glass lockbox. Anybody at any time can investigate the balance of that lockbox. And furthermore, if you open up yours and take some money out, you can dump it in someone else's. Luckily, all of these transactions are stored on what we call the ledger, right? This is a long transaction list. Every move that ever happens, not the looks, just the moves, are logged. All right. Now, how do we feel about basic understanding of a blockchain now? Right? Do you see it? Do you feel like you're in the bank vault room looking at the big glass wall, investigating balances, using your key to your wallet, taking your funds out? All right? That is a very important foundational understanding. Let's continue on to the concept of an explorer. An explorer is kind of like a tool to help you investigate all of those balances and help you investigate all of those transactions. Up to now, I pitched you the idea of a vast, almost infinite direction wall, and you really don't know where to start. How do you find the balance of an address? Is it all the way over there that you can't get to, right? It's very manual, it seems like. So we have these explorers, and these explorers allow us to quickly seek out wallet addresses, all right? And we can type in the address of a wallet, and immediately we can ask the blockchain network, we can literally ask a node, or we can replicate all that data too over time. But the point is we can simply ask that node, what's the balance? What's going on here, right? And again, lots of technical nuances here. There's a lot more to it, but the idea is an explorer is a tool to help you quickly identify balances in wallets, transaction histories, and transaction logs from that ledger, okay? it's really important that an explorer plays a role in this story because NFTs live on a blockchain somewhere, in sense, in theory. Again, we'll get into what that really means. And if we can't explore, how are we going to see all these beautiful NFTs that people have? How do we validate and verify that it's in your wallet? I've got a couple in my wallet, but if you don't know how to look at them, So an Explorer is a fantastic tool, right? It's this massive system. And so, again, we want to hammer this down in our giant glass wall of safety deposit boxes that are read-only, looky-loo. You can deposit what you want in it. You own the one that has your key to it, right? And then this Explorer gives you that transaction history. Because these are applications, these are pieces of software, they give you really fun features. Like if we database all of the different transactions, we can sort, right? We can say who got the biggest transaction, who's got the biggest wallet that we've seen. All these really cool things, all right? More importantly, and we'll get into this shortly, is we can look at the code of a smart contract. You're probably saying, wait a minute, code, what the heck does it have to do anything? We're getting to the point where technologies like Ethereum allow us to actually develop functional code, compile it into bytecode, execute it in virtual machines. I mean, we're really getting intricate. So nowadays, our blockchain explorers give us insight into software running on the blockchain. Okay, it's happening. Anyways, let's continue. Smart contracts, all right? This is where it's going to hurt a little bit. And again, this can go way in a crazy direction, but I do want to focus on the smart contract aspect of NFTs, right? And so to reiterate, we understand that a blockchain is, and we understand the use of an explorer in interacting with the contents of a blockchain. So a smart contract gives us the ability to add code to this blockchain, right? And in the Ethereum world, where smart contracts are really critical to the foundation of this, and smart contracts do exist on other technologies, on other chains, on other platforms. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll focus on the Ethereum side of things. It gives us this opportunity to add code, to run functional outcomes, right? And so it's programmed in a language called Solidity, right? And what's going to happen here is we, like all good things in a blockchain, we put something into the blockchain, it exists in the blockchain, and smart contracts are often explained as an agreement between two parties, the buyer and the seller, or an owner and a recipient. And a smart contract can be something as simple as to perform a function, right? To transfer a balance is a function that can be done in a smart contract. To prove ownership of an address. To in our case, mint an NFT. I've seen some really great code in some smart contracts around gaming and casinos, where you can run a lot of the balancing, where you put in a bid on a card and then a function happens as an output and then a balance is transferred whether you win or lose. I mean, the idea here is we're turning the blockchain into an application and we're allowing it to run executable code here that is stored in the blockchain. Now, one of the big things that comes with the caveat of blockchain is once it's written to the ledger, there's no going back. You can only continue writing to that transactional ledger. You don't rip it up. You don't erase it. It continues and ever growing. So you may ask yourself, well, how do you get rid of a smart contract, or when it's done, or how do you amend a contract, right? And there's all these really cool functions that allow us to make use of running code in a blockchain environment. And again, we'll kind of get into more intricate examples, but I wanted to just preface that smart contracts are critical to the success of NFTs in technologies like Ethereum, right? It's the foundation of ownership, creation, and transfer of these digital goods. all performed in code. So again, we can get really deep in this, but that's a talk in itself. So I implore everybody listening online to research into some of this stuff, right? Again, I think it's very cool. And if you've heard of any kind of like hacks happening in different online exchanges, especially decentralized exchanges, or DEXs as we call them, oftentimes it has to do with a bug in the smart contract code that allowed somebody to make a transfer or a transaction that wasn't supposed to happen, right? The backend code may automate funds from one location to another, but a bug allowed somebody to change the destination and the amount, and suddenly a million of whatever coin is now in somebody else's wallet on accident, right? And so it's definitely interesting. So again, just tiny little bit of how we're really getting into this. But know that smart contracts are the foundation of where we're going forward. All right. Next is the concept of Web3. This is also very crucial to the use of NFTs and to the ownership of NFTs and to the proof of NFTs. And furthermore, the proof of who you are and the fact that you are who you say you are in your wallet and all this fun stuff. So let's kind of dig into more or less what I mean by this. All right. Now, I was speaking with a young lady earlier about the concept of what Web3 is doing to authentication. And many of us today are very used to a function of authentication being something like username and password. We'll throw in the mix and do a little MFA and say maybe like a token or a text message or some kind of soft token program on your phone that gives you a 6-digit PIN, maybe asks you to validate and verify some kind of process or a push notification. The point is our modern Web 2.0 kind of system is owned by companies. Again, this is much more into the concept of Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0 theory of decentralized, centralized, and now decentralized again. But where I want to kind of just highlight this for the experience of NFTs is that what Web3 authentication is allowing us to do is use our private key and wallet ownership and the contents, furthermore, of that wallet as proof of authentication, right, to allow us to log in as an experience. So I do have a question from online.
All right, so one of our new members asks, are the contents of your wallet encrypted using something like public-private key, PKI stuff? And if so, when are the parts of the blockchain, when do they become decrypted?
So now there may be technologies that exist that hide the contents of a wallet, whether it's balance or other things that may be. But for the most part, as kind of covered earlier, because it's still kind of a glass box, balances, content, NFTs that you own, any transactions that you've made historically, anything basically written to that ledger will continue to exist for the unforeseen future. Through stuff like Ethereum, that's not currently the case, but there may be technologies that allow more masking of the contents. That public key, private key aspect, the public key is your receiving address and the private key is the ownership and ability to sign on behalf of that wallet and also to pull from that wallet. Anybody can actually receive. I can send anybody any amount to any address at any time, whether you ask for it or not. So hopefully that answers your question. So to kind of get into how ownership of a wallet, how having your cryptographic address on a blockchain affects you in an authentication scheme, is we have this concept, right? And one of the most popular tools currently online to kind of build this experience is called MetaMask. MetaMask is something that you can add to like Chrome or Firefox or Brave. And what it will do is you essentially add your wallet with your private key, proving your ownership of it. And it exists as like a signing authority. It exists as an interactive component with whatever website you're currently surfing. And that website may say, all right, we're ready to log you in, user. Instead of saying, what is your username and password, it may say, what is your wallet? And we'll just tie an account or an association to that wallet. And so that's what's happening here is we're using a tool like MetaMask to prove ownership of a wallet address. Now that we got that, all right, perfect, good, right? And so the wallet owner proves their ownership of the key and imports the account, right? I am now said Glassbox owner, and I can prove it, look at me. And now they masquerade on the internet, authenticating as this wallet. This is now their persona, this is now their account, this is now their username in a sense. And that password is kind of replaced with the private key, that owner aspect, right? And there isn't necessarily an identity known to this, right? We're so far separated from reality here that whoever's on the other end of this owner of this wallet may have nothing to do with what they're logging into and who they're representing online, right? This is an absolute definition of that wonderful aspect that comes with decentralization, right? Where it exists as a form of authentication with no tie to who or what, right? And so because you have this online persona, there's no email, there's no handle. Imagine not having a hacker name, right? Some may say it's safer than a password. I think it's safer than a password because certificate authentication, it really comes down to something you have. Obviously, it could be lost and it could be stolen, but generally something that you have is better than something that can be guessed. It's significantly more entropy. So, and finally, this is the future. Don't believe me, live it. So check out stuff like MetaMask. It's going to be really cool. If you're not into MetaMask, Coinbase makes one called Coinbase Wallet. There's also a number of other wallets available online. In fact, there's many wallets available online. Whichever one you use is up to you. Basically, a lot of these wallets focus around the Ethereum ecosystem and all of the kind of derivatives that support the Ethereum virtual machine. Again, we'll get into some of that weird stuff, but the concept is this wallet will help you experience all that it is Web3 authentication. Well, what are we authenticating into in the first place? Welcome to the world of decentralized apps, or dApps, right? And this is an interesting one too. I mentioned that smart contracts are code, and code is published to a blockchain to be executed as a function. In fact, when you break it down in Ethereum terms, smart contracts have read functions and write functions, similar to the functions that you define in your applications that you do today. You simply call a function, right? And to call a read function, you call the read function. You can use an explorer. You can interact directly with the blockchain, however you choose to do it. Sometimes they require a variable, and you give it that variable, and it spits out an answer. And it runs that function in a virtual machine as part of this distributed network of Ethereum technology. And then, but to write to the function, to write something, that requires writing to the ledger. That is where the dreaded gas fees come in. Now, I haven't talked about gas up to now, but I really just want to touch on it. Gas fees are kind of like the transaction tax, all right? Now, again, much more intricate regarding the race and the blocks and things like that. But the idea is that all good things don't come for free. And to make a transaction, especially on Ethereum, you have to pay a gas fee. You have to pay a tax. And this tax actually varies depending on the time of day, depending on how active the network is mostly. And And so like making a trade or a transaction or me giving somebody an X amount from my wallet to their wallet, doing a write function costs a tax. We are now writing to the ledger, to the blockchain, and we have to pay for that. So now we got there. So now we understand that this code allows us to read and write things. We can get an answer. We can perform a function, which is a transaction or a push or a weird whatever, right? Create something. So let's talk about these decentralized apps, right? And these apps there's a ton of them. They're fantastic, all these. And again, decentralized in the concept that the code exists within the blockchain. How you access the app may still be some kind of hosted website, but the idea is that you're interacting with code, right? And so what's really cool is because it exists in a kind of this blockchain infrastructure, especially this Ethereum concept of infrastructure, it's there, right? Remember what I said about when you write something to the blockchain, once it's on the ledger, that's it, right? You can't just get rid of it. But furthermore, it's distributed because there's not just one copy of it. All the participants of the Ethereum network have copies of this, all the nodes, right? And this is where all the virtual machines exist. This is where all the code execution happens at scale. So it's kind of difficult to hunt that down. There isn't necessarily one party. Maybe one party originated it and published it. But how do you stop something that spreads very quickly? That is part of Web3. Power to the people. Not letting Facebook and Google and all these other big companies own the data. They distribute it back out to the users. Question from the internet.
All right, so this question, who gets the gas fees?
That's a great question. So the gas fees actually are part of, and again, this is a much deeper hole, but in it has to do with the algorithm, whether it's proof of stake or proof of work or proof of whatever, but gas fees go to help fund the awards given to individuals that are helping continue the construction of a blockchain through mining or through staking and the efforts to secure the blocks of transactions as they're written to the ledger. The idea is those fees don't just disappear, and there isn't necessarily one entity that gets them all. It is used to pay for the efforts of people that are validating through staking and mining. And essentially, let's just say those gas fees go to help pay for the security to the individuals that are putting effort into securing the technology. So hopefully that kind of answers it in a roundabout. Again, a lot of this stuff can be its own talk. And I just want to introduce these concepts, right? But back to this fact that now this code exists in all these places, and you can simply query and interact with the code functions as they exist through stuff like an Explorer. So it's put everywhere. Suddenly we just can't put a stop to it. And there's no shutting it down. It's decentralized. Power back to the people, right? And so it safeguards against stuff like privacy. And it safeguards against stuff like censorship, right? It's not getting shut down. If, think of some of these websites today that get shut down. Well, how do they get shut down? Well, they're just going after the server that hosts it because it's in a location. You can determine where it physically is. I'm sorry, everybody, but the internet is still a thing that we can go and unplug, right? Especially if it's a website, if it's an application that's generally hosted somewhere. And that's one of the big advantages is if your application and your code isn't hosted in one specific location, it's distributed as part of this global network, whoops, it kind of exists. So cool stuff. Anyways, now that we understand that functioning code provides applications that exist in a blockchain that's distributed around the world in a decentralized manner, let's get into the actual data itself. And so I want to introduce the idea of a really cool technology that kind of plays hand in hand with NFTs, IPFS, right? And you may be wondering, well, wait a minute. What about like a really, really big NFT? Because I heard NFTs could be pictures or music or movies. can you store that much data in the blockchain, right? And actually, you don't. Use something like IPFS, which is the Interplanetary File System. Very cool name, right? And what this is it's actually a blockchain developed such that you can store large amounts of data. I have a question from the back.
What about the problem when somebody puts a keyboard on the blockchain?
So what happens when somebody puts illegal content on the blockchain? That is a real problem. For instance, if you are the node operator as part of the Ethereum network and somebody stores something, you are now also storing a copy of that. Really, really big problem. I'm not really going to explore that topic. I just want people to know that once something's on the internet, it's always on the internet, blockchain or not. You will get caught. So, but yeah, IPFS is really cool. Imagine it as blockchain file hosting. Awesome. So what's really happening in the world of an NFT is kind of like what's really happening in your computer. Your hard drive doesn't just magically have all this picture data. It has an index, like a journal, of all of these pointers to where the data is actually stored. Following me here? So now what's actually happening in the ownership of an NFT is it's not actual image data. It's a pointer or a URL as part of that smart contract that's sitting in your wallet. And it's pointing to a hosted file, most likely on IPFS. Now we're starting to put it together, all right? So again, it's just a centralized access across network nodes. So you add a file, it gets a file ID, it gets distributed and blasted out to all of the people participating in the IPFS network all across the world. This ID, right, is the identifier. And so you can't just delete it in one place because it's in all these other places. And you can ask the network and it kind of, so who has this? Oh, I have it. All right, well now you have a copy of it and it caches and expires and it floats around. So it's out there, people. But really cool. One of the most popular image or file hosting on IPFS platforms is called Pinata. And so the idea of what we do here is if I want to put my lovely NFT somewhere, I go over to Pinata and I say, toss it up on IPFS, get me that ID number, and then when I go make my NFT smart contract and publish it, well, the picture data, the stuff that you and I see, is just a pointer to a hosted image file. Boom. Blockchains. So, again, all this is just really important. It's very, and we're just kind of slightly introducing the ideas. I really encourage you to do additional research on this stuff. It's fantastic. I think the IPFS system, the Interplanetary File System, is really cool to check out. You can use it for other things too. You don't have to just use it for images of NFTs. But definitely, I hope that you appreciated this really light foundational introduction to the concepts of blockchain, to the concepts of the ledger of the blockchain, to the concept of wallets and keys. Furthermore, using Explorer to navigate that lovely wall of glass safety deposit boxes. Furthermore, that smart contracts now exist today to allow us to not just put in balances of code, but also put in functional experiences within our blockchain. And then finally, what we're doing with those smart contracts by allowing applications to exist in a decentralized manner. And finally, file hosting and how this is all going to tie together here, I promise, through pretty pictures of animals. All right. Let's define a couple things. I haven't really delved into this part yet. I'm just talking about weird technologies up to now. But I think this is very important. N, non, F, fungible, T, token. All right, we're done. Talk's over. Yeah? No? Yeah, another hour. All right, so let's talk about really what's going on here because this is actually critical. Fungible is not a normal word we use in our daily vocabulary, at least in American English. And because of that, it's kind of like, oh, it means, one but not one. It's that NFT thing, and I think there's only one of it, right? All right, really simple. Fungible, able to replace or be replaced by an identical item. Another, okay? Still doesn't tell me what I need to know. So I have a pretty picture of a cat here, and the pretty picture of the cat explains it all. Fungible. A lot of the same thing can exist. Non-fungible. Only one of these things exists. If you've noticed, all of these cats are unique. They are different. They all have an identifier that makes them different, and they look different, and they feel different. Okay? And that's very important. So again, lots of the same thing, one of one. So non-fungible means unique. Cool. Token. Now this may be thrown around kind of weird, but let's break this down for a second, because Bitcoin says coin. It doesn't say bit token. But is Ethereum a coin or a token? And what is Dogecoin really? All right. So this is the way kind of like I break it down, but there's kind of a separation of duty between the way I view it as coins and tokens, right? And really, at the end of the day, we call everything a token or a coin. It's gonna be synonymous anyways. But realistically, and at least the way I view it, there's a big difference between a coin and a token. Okay, and so a token is a virtual currency or tradable asset or utility, right? That resides on a blockchain, but wait, and allows the holder to use it for investment economic purposes. Okay. So you just described a coin then. But it goes deeper than that. Because thanks to stuff like smart contracts, for the sake of it, we'll call it subcoins, right? Other tokens can exist on the same blockchain. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, period, right? Litecoin is Litecoin, period. Those technologies are as they are today. They may adopt, and they may expand and absorb other things, but the concept right now is that Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and it exists as a unilateral experience. Ethereum is different. Smart contracts allowed us to create something like ERC-20, or the creation of tokens. And what that means is that other coins can exist on the Ethereum blockchain, right? And I'm throwing all these words around, but the basis of what we want to know here is that a token also rides along this Ethereum blockchain as another currency, right? And so what does that look like? How the heck does that work? And so if I want to give, Chris 1 Ethereum, you're rich, bro. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wallet and I'm going to unlock it with my private key, and I'm going to take 1 Ethereum out, and I'm going to deposit it in Chris's wallet that he tells me, or whatever destination or nefarious place he wants me to put it. And that's the end of it, as it looks like on the ledger, this blockchain ledger. It's going to literally show transaction performed from John to Chris for the amount of 1 Ethereum with a little bit of gas, because gas. But what happens when we transfer a token? It looks a little bit different here, because this token is smart contract code, and it exists in this weird middle ground, this weird space that's riding along on this Ethereum blockchain. Let's say, Chris, I want to give you, let's see, I don't know, name any freaking stupid coin these days. A house, great, house coin. Yeah, and house coin is a smart contract on Ethereum. What that transaction, when I give it to you, is going to look like is, what's going to happen here is it's going to say from John to Chris for the amount of 0 Ethereum, but a smart contract tied in 100 house coins, a little bit of gas ether, Ethereum gas at the end. And so what just happened there is a 0 coin transaction took place. And I mean that as the base coin of the technology. Ethereum is the base coin of its whole technology. And all of these other tokens are just smart contracts that exist as code. And that's how we literally just transferred a made-up token. And that really is interesting because tokens can be made by anybody. You, too, can make whatever shitcoin today you want out of nowhere and call it whatever you want and give it whatever funny logo you want and publish that smart contract to the Ethereum blockchain. And now you, too, are the owner and creator of whatever coin that has no value. And this is interesting. It brings a challenge, right, of fakes and useless and FUD and Ponzi schemes and all kinds of craziness. So please be careful out there when you're looking at these different tokens because they may not be the one you're looking for. They may be a clone. They may be worthless. They may be useless. And so please be safe. But again, coin is going to represent, in the way I'm talking about it, the main currency of the blockchain that pays. There's the main coin that's used for all the gas fees of all of these other smart contracts, right? Like how the US dollar here in America is how we pay for everything, including tax. In Ethereum is how they pay for tax. Cool. Again, much deeper stuff. It's great when you see it in action, but hopefully that concept of like the 0 Ethereum smart contract says 100 got pushed kind of gets into that. And that model is what it's going to allow us to also transfer NFTs. And we'll see what that does. So, bippity bobbity boo, put together what he got. We now have NFTs, right? These non-fungible tokens that are unique, one of one. These digital assets secured by a blockchain, stuff like Ethereum, right? They take the form, as we've mentioned, of sometimes images, sometimes videos or song, right? And the holder, right, has a blockchain-proven key ownership of that asset. Cool. Whew, man, it only took us like 40 minutes just to get to the breakdown of the letters N, F, and T. I love this. All right, we're gonna get into the utility of uniqueness. And this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be an interactive game, including those playing it online. And so let's do something with this. All right, I want somebody online to tell me, name anything that is unique in this world that we live in. Your fingerprints? Well, fingerprint's actually an interesting one. I was going more with a tangible item of ownership or an asset or a concept, but well, I'm going to skip the fingerprint, but good try. And with today's technology, we're still having issues with it. I have what's up?
Maybe like the scrapes on a tiger or a zebra.
So we're still going on the concept of fingerprints, but actually, you know what? I'll play off of that because maybe that pet tiger that you have, right? There's only one of those. What's the name of your pet tiger? What?
I don't really have.
Oh, well, I'm going to give you a pet tiger then. Well, his name is Tiger. We'll go with that. And so your pet tiger is unique. And like dogs, we may have a certificate of maybe breed or some kind of DNA thing, right? And now we're starting to say, okay, well, there's clearly only one of this pet tiger in the whole world. And the normal way I would prove ownership is I got this piece of paper that says I have a pet tiger and his DNA is this and his name is Tiger and he's mine, right? And that's kind of the concept here. Well, what about the scarcity, right? The uniqueness of an event ticket? Because only one ticket will ever exist for a game at the Lightning, right? At the Amalie, in section 201, seat 17, right? Or whatever, right? Lightning versus, I have an example, so I'm going to read that. Lightning versus Panthers, Thursday, December 30th, 2001, 7 p.m., section 302, row B, seat 12. Can anybody agree with me that there will never, ever be more than one of those tickets for that very specific experience, that ticket, that ownership, right? That asset. Okay. Well, that's, and I'm just starting. Right? And I hope everybody's starting to, the wheels are starting to spin. Now, do you see what I mean by things that are unique, right? And things that you can have, tangible, own assets, stuff of that nature, right? What if, and I just posed the idea of, what if Ticketmaster didn't own the database of all the tickets? What if somebody hacked Ticketmaster? It's centralized. Why can't we publish a blockchain ledger of all ticket holders so that we can prove and validate ownership? We can transfer tickets between owners of wallets, and we're not relying on one centralized authority. Web3. Let's get deeper. Let's get deeper. There's only one deed to your house. There's only one title to your vehicle. I mean, there may be copies, but conceptually, anybody can make a replica of something. The point is that one exists. Well, these things are kind of already, in a sense, especially house deeds. This is public information already. Who owns what? Why do I need to have, centralized trust in city municipalities that no stranger to getting hacked on a regular basis, right? To store all of this stuff. Yes, they're probably using paper files. I get it, right? They're from the 1700s, are still filing through land deeds. But if this is public information already, why not store it on a blockchain so that we can verify ownership and that we can review it as needed because it's public information? And again, there's only one of this asset. One of one will ever exist, period. Two people can't own the same thing. All right. Are we following along here? Did I trigger anybody with the word metaverse? There is virtual real estate these days. And in fact, NFTs are used to help show ownership of virtual land because it is a one-of-one piece of code tied or pointing to a specific asset, right? A plot of land in the metaverse, right? And we'll get into metaverses in a little bit. But just, again, metaverse is a thing with a place and there's stuff there. All right. What about... What?
It's a thing in a place with this stuff.
I think enough said. And a thing and a place and a stuff. Okay. Other things that are unique in this world. Well, what if there's a fixed number of members to a club, or there's only so many tickets to the Justin Bieber wedding, right? You have to be cool to pee your pants kind of stuff, right? And this is where I'm going with this, is there's a lot of assets and experiences in this world that truly are unique, that are one of one. For instance, you can be member 27 of 300, right? And that's you, and that's your number. And instead of carrying around a club card at Costco, you show your wallet verification, and the fact that there's an NFT in it gets you into the club. Huh, pretty cool. What if I wanted to sell my membership to somebody else? There's a really cool NFT club experience going around on the internet right now. There's a restaurant in New York, it's a seafood restaurant, and the owner decided, I'm going to sell like a fixed number of NFTs. And if you own this NFT, you can come to the restaurant. There's more than that. Like it's an experience around it. It's an omakase thing, which is the sushi and blah, blah, blah. But the point I'm going with this is he said, I'm only going to sell so many of these, and people can sell them to each other, or they can invest in them and hold on to them, hoping that a seat at my super exclusive place goes up in value. But this is a fixed number of club members that are transferable without centralization, because the owner of this restaurant doesn't care who has it, it's whether or not you have it. Interesting, right? Very fun use of technology. And what about that Web3 stuff that I keep talking about? What about Web3 access? What if a website has a member portal and the way that you log in and authenticate isn't through a username and password, but is through using MetaMask to interact with the website and show that you own an NFT in your wallet. And now you have been given portal access, right? Are you following me here? Are you starting to see real world examples of how this stuff actually can apply? Now, look, NFTs are bullshit, but the point is there's actual interesting utility out there, right? And not real bullshit, but we're going with that basis. So just think of this stuff, right? There was only so many golden tickets in those chocolate Wonka bars to go visit the factory. You either had it or you didn't. You didn't care who had it. You could transfer it to somebody else too. But anyways, this is one of my favorite uses of NFTs as far as a utility goes. That's something that we can do today, that anybody can do today. And I call this attendance tracking, right? Because what if an NFT was unique to an experience, right? I went to New York and saw the ball drop at the turn of the millennium, in 2000. That's the kind of shit that will never happen again. But how do you commemorate that? Question from...
This is starting to make sense is like using them as digital ticket stubs. Real ticket stubs.
Yeah, and so the kind of the question from the audience here is that it sounds like it's like a ticket stub. Exactly. In fact, that's where I'm going with this. Is a ticket stub, is an archive. Who here collected concert ticket stubs when you were younger? I will just admit I went to a lot of concerts when I was like in high school and college. And I loved it. I thought it was super cool. And I had a whole bunch of ticket stubs of all these different shows that I went to. And it was very memorable. And it always kind of felt a little nostalgic. There wasn't really a whole lot of value necessarily, but it helped me, remember a time and a place. And I could share that with somebody and I could say, look, I was at this concert too. Here's my ticket stub. Like, oh, it's so cool, right? And so how does this proof of attendance work? Is if we give each attendee a specific NFT that from that experience, and they keep that NFT, that kind of helps them, go back. Like they look through all their NFTs and they go, oh, that was so much fun. I did that. And, oh, that was so cool. I did that too. Right? And so you share these stories, and this collection implies participation. What if we used it as school, right? And you had to show up to class and click your DApp to receive the NFT as a sign-in process. And then the way that you prove that somebody didn't attend is because they didn't get the NFT that day, right? Again, these have no value. What we're doing here is we're utilizing the blockchain and some code to identify ownership of an asset. And that asset can be used to track a lot of things. So, this brings us to something called I call it POAP. I know people on the internet call it POAP or whatever. But proof of attendance protocol, and we'll dig into a little bit this later on, but proof of attendance protocol allowed users like you and I on the internet to easily create NFTs for experiences and events and things that are memorable as some kind of like little token of nostalgia. They're little circles, you can collect them. And it helps you, I went to this thing, I was there, I participated, I got it. And now I have this catalog of all these really cool things I did historically. So it's really fun. They're huge in the metaverse. We'll get there. Proof of attendance protocol is huge in the metaverse, but also in the real world too. And so I think it's one of the easiest ways to create an NFT and to give away an NFT, especially because it's part of an experience. Maybe like tonight is an experience. All right? NFTs are going to be huge in games. I'm not even joking about this. All right? Again, I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but work with me here. What if you can buy an NFT for a golden gun in your favorite first-person shooter, right? And that ownership tied to your login with your wallet is how you experience the game. You can buy upgrades as NFTs, and as you own them, they directly influence your game experience, and then you could sell them off to other people, right? And so we're not going to be buying it from Ubisoft anymore. I'm sorry. And Blizzard, and whatever you call yourself these days, Activision, and Microsoft, and no longer Bungie, Sony. But the point is up to now we used to have something called DLC, downloadable content. And what that was is pay to play. You wanted an upgrade, you wanted the latest thing, you wanted more tokens and coins to power up. You had to pay extra. And who did you pay that to? You paid it to the developers. Okay? But now we're going to flip the table and we're going to use NFTs in-game. So what you're going to do is you're going to associate your wallet to your character in the game, and then all of those NFTs that apply to the game that you own are going to directly influence that gameplay experience. And then you can say, all right, well, I'm done. I'm going to sell them off to some other player. You put them up on for sale in the market, right? Where I'm going with this is that everything from skins, wearables, upgrades, shields, helmets, vehicles, they're no longer going to be paying it directly to the developer of the game. You're going to be in an open market of NFTs that are transferred between users, all through proven ownership of your wallet and the assets within it. This also allows some really cool stuff like in-game gambling, because now you have also coin and token balances. Okay? We're going to have stuff like trading cards. So collectibles are going to be in the form of NFTs. Awards, achievements are going to be in the form of NFTs. And finally, it's a status symbol. Look at my NFTs, because anybody can look at my wallet and look that I have level 60 golden rifle. You know? But we're already seeing games that are participating in this kind of stuff. Read the news regarding a lot of these game developers getting into the NFT market. They see it, they realize it. What they may do is they may mint the first one. They may be the author of the original smart contract of the NFT and sell it, but then now it can bounce from user to user to user, right? And there is the possibility of royalties, right? There may be code in that smart contract that says every time this is transferred to a new user, I get a little kickback or something, right? Again, these are all possible, but this is where we're going. I'm sorry, but NFTs are actually going to be part of our future, whether you like it or not. What does everybody think of that? Like the concept of uniqueness and rarity, and the fact that we can turn anything pretty much now into an NFT and apply utility to it. I'd love to hear your feedback online, because it's kind of awkward, if you ask me. But hopefully you can now get a little more interest to get ahead of it, to stay on top of this stuff, and continue to research. So like I said, keep the questions coming. I really enjoy them. All right. So now we've understand the concept of uniqueness. Let's talk about what uniqueness really means in the concept of NFTs. Because I'm sorry, I've been lying to you this whole time. Non-fungible tokens being unique. Yeah, right. Let's talk about it. So because I'm so focused on Ethereum being the basis technology for everything we're kind of covering here, Ethereum offers these things called EIPs, or improvement proposals. Just like our favorite thing to read on the internet today, RFPs. This is, somebody saying, hey, I think I got an idea for a proposed standard, and I'd love some comments, requests for comments, RFCs, regarding my proposal. It's possible we may standardize this. We may make this a thing. Well, Ethereum puts power back into the people and allows people to submit great ideas in the form of EIPs. And these are community improvements, and they fall under a couple categories. They have core improvements, they have networking improvements, interface improvements, right? And finally, these EIPs call for an ERC. Again, I have an idea. I want the community to be aware of it. Please, vote on it. And then if it's good, we'll put it into play. And this is now a published standard as part of our technology. It's starting to sound a lot like how, things on the internet normally roll, right? So one of the most important improvement proposals, right, was the ERC 721. The comments for ERC 721. 721, that's a really odd number. Well, that's how many, like proposals are coming up. Like there's tons of them. There's well over 1,000 of these proposals because people look at this technology and they're thinking, well, I can really do a lot with this. How about this? How about this? Let's try this. Let's try this, right? And so 721 was the founding of the concept of the non-fungible token, right? And this was the standard that defined what smart contract code will look like to initiate creation and transfer and proof of ownership of an NFT within somebody's wallet. These are the functions. This is literally Solidity code standardized as part of the language. These functions now exist. They can be compiled and they can be now ran in this virtual machine as part of our distributed network, right? And so 721 allows for the implementation of a standard API for NFTs within smart contracts. I've been talking about smart contracts so long now, but this is where it came from. It provides the basic functionality to track and transfer NFTs. Right? These functions now exist. They're callable, they're usable, they're executable, they're compilable. It's very cool. It was created in January of 2018. Right? And this is a piggyback off of Proposal 20. 20 was the smart contract use of a token or other coin that exists on the same network that just also has to pay gas fees. Right? So ERC20 is how we created coins that exist in the Ethereum network, and ERC 721 is how we created the concept of the non-fungible token, that unique experience through code. All right, this is the part where I lied. So ERC 1155 is an adaptation to 721, and what makes it different is it says, okay, I get that these one-of-one things now exist, right? But what if, and I mean what if, I wanted to make 1,000 of this NFT, but I only want it to be one contract instead of 1,000 contracts, because that's a lot of writing to the blockchain. That's a lot of gas, right? And so in 1155, allows for a multi-token standard, right? And it interfaces to manage multiple token types. And what does this really mean is it can represent any number of a fungible and non-fungible token type. And so remember those cats that were non-fungible, that were unique in sense? Well, that's great. That's a wonderful kind of experience or requirement for things to be, unique. But what if instead of all of those membership cards, each having an ID number, member 1, member 2, member 3, member 4, what if I just said there were 1,000 of them in general, and they weren't necessarily unique in the sense that each one had its own ID number, but just that there's a fixed number of them that exists, and they can be transferred, but there's still a fixed number of them that exist, okay? And so you don't know if you have number 1 or number 17, okay? And that's where this comes from. Is it came to allow this, right? And again, existing standards like ERC20 require deployment of separate contracts every single time you want to do something unique. Where this says, I'm going to deploy a contract of 1,000. They all look the same, they all feel the same, but there's a fixed number in existence, right? And that number is all part of that code, how many exist, right? And so this followed shortly after in June of 2018. So we're in 2022, or at least that's the year this recording was made. And so 4 years ago was the concept of NFTs. Wasn't so cool 4 years ago, was it? It's only cool now, apparently. But the point of this, right, and I have a note here, and I want to read this out because it's not on the screen. But 721 standard token ID is a single non-fungible index. And the group of these non-fungible indexes is a single contract, right? In contrast, 1155 multi-token standard allows for each token ID to represent a new configurable token type, which may have its own supply, its own attributes. The point here is now we're actually allowing not necessarily one of one, but many of one Sorry, they're not so cool anymore, I guess. It happens. Whatever. Okay. Art time! Who likes to paint? I do. You like to paint? Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the type of painting that I do, and the type of painting that Chris does too, is we do the painting on the computer, right? And which is acceptable, right? Less of a mess, right? I still like to paint with my hands, but most of the painting we do today is on the computer. We may draw it or sketch it and import it into the computer, but at the end of the day, a lot of our art today is digital graphics, digital art, So let's kick this off, right? And so when it comes to the art world of NFTs, which again, I mentioned is more popular, more common, more one that we've all maybe have seen. You probably saw a picture of an NFT, like the one behind me in this picture, or you may have saw a picture of an NFT in a news article or any of the other number of slides that I've had this entire recording. And those are files on some file system somewhere, whether interplanetary or not. And those are the NFT is pointing to that reference, right? And it has some apparent value. But I want to talk about different types of NFT art. And what's happening here is it's not necessarily a new topic or a new concept, but NFT art has really taken off in multiple directions, right? And what's going to be interesting is maybe the type of NFT art that applies to you, right? The type of NFT art that is up your alley, right? Our resident Chris here makes really cool, unique art, and those should be NFTs one day. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So let's get into that. So what is original art, right? Original art may often be handmade or draft of some sort, right? So it's painted art that's photographed or maybe scanned in, right? Because we're used to an art hung up on the wall, like this flag over here, right? It is something we see, and if I want to digitalize it, I'll take a picture of it, I'll scan it in, or I'll recreate it in some kind of digital form, right? They're often done and illustrated in software like Photoshop, right? Or Illustrator itself, or any of the other art software nerd stuff that you people do today, right? But what's happening here is there's an opportunity for real-world art to be digitalized and turned into an NFT art, used online, used as some kind of form of digital expression and digital presentation, right? And what if the physical copy comes with a digital copy, and that digital copy smart contract isn't just an NFT in a digital form, reference to a digital form, but also explicitly states ownership. That if you own this NFT, you also own the physical art. And until the NFT is transferred, the physical art is still owned by this person who owns this wallet. Pretty interesting stuff like that. Realistically, anybody can turn a photograph, which is already digital, or a drawing or anything drafted into an NFT, right? But again, these are unique bits of creativity. Question from the internet.
All right, so this question, could this base concept be leveraged for something like secure identification cards, possibly to replace something like social security numbers?
So yes and no. And so first off, generally social security numbers are not public information or aren't supposed to be. We all know how that goes. But to kind of touch on that from a Web3 perspective, NFTs can be used as a form of identification and authentication through online experiences that don't require real-world identification, right? And so that club membership we talked about, that potentially we talked about, ownership of deeds and vehicles and things of that nature, public domain stuff, is absolutely possible. But it's definitely on a case-by-case basis. You do have to ask yourself, is this something I want everybody to know, right? And if it's not, then it's probably not the best use of it. But if it is, then it is definitely up for consideration. Now, obviously, medical records come into play, and there's always somebody talking about how they're going to put medical records on the blockchain. again, you have to make sure that the data within those wallets or those unique identities are safe and secure from peering eyes, and that adds to a bit of complexity. So I hope I answered that, but it's a very challenging thing when it comes to what you want public facing and what you don't, and who ultimately owns that blockchain network, right? But then if it's owned by someone or something rather than distributed, is no longer decentralized, and is it what we want again? What were we trying to achieve in the first place? Getting that and making it power of the people. Question from the crowd.
I have a question.
Yes.
So could NFT basically be used as a cataloging resource for someone that was an art collector? Could they digitize their library or their collection, make it an NFT for each piece of art, and in that sense, would it actually increase the value, being that it is a piece of art that has an associated NFT?
All right, so the question focused around digitalizing real-world art and building a catalog of that, and is there actually any kind of value that can be generated from it, if not increase the value? And so like the art world, art is only worth, an NFT is only worth what you're willing to pay for it. Sorry, but that's just the reality of it. And so by digitalizing something, you are now making it experiential. For instance, if a piece of art was only hung up in your house, that requires somebody physically going there. Now, if you want to take a picture of it and post it on a website somewhere, that's great, but that website is centralized, and if something happens to that, that data is no longer there. If we turn a piece of art into an NFT, we now do two things. We prove ownership of that NFT, which may not necessarily imply that you also own the art, it's just that you own an NFT, but also you give the opportunity and experience for other people to now look at it digitally too, through another medium. So there's a lot of different ways to take that. I would not necessarily imply that anything adds value, but I would also say that there are people that focus in that area that would make it valuable to them. So you just got to find the right customer. Question?
Yeah, is crypto mining still profitable, or is this just a niche hobby?
All right, we're talking about other stuff now. The question was about crypto mining. Yes, crypto mining is still profitable. It is not niche. And we're talking about NFTs. Get back on track. All right. Let's talk about some of those uses, right? And we've already kind of delved into this, but like, here's one example for you. I want to make sure that the background on my website, I'm the only one on the internet who has it. And so contractually, by owning that NFT, I can do whatever I want with it, use it. Therefore, I'm the only one with that picture. Yes, we have copyright and things like that, but an NFT is a piece of code that says, as long as I hold it in my wallet, it should be mine. You can't go copying things that are mine. I own the title to it, basically. So this is an interesting one. Now you have complete control of this license. Or do you? We'll get into that. The future of museums. There was a period of time where very popular art museums around the world were individually photographing all of the art and putting it on their website so that viewers online could wander around this theoretical online museum to see the art because they couldn't go in person. They couldn't travel. Things were very bad. And so with their doors closed, how did they introduce this lovely art to people? Well, they digitalize it. And in a strange way, we're starting to see people's collections of NFTs postured in such a museum online, but in the metaverse? Okay, anyways. And finally, seriously, the most important reason at the end of the day you want to have a piece of NFT is to tell your friends you have an NFT. How'd that go? Did it go well? Not so well? It didn't go well? I wish I could hear the chuckles from online. Thank you. Thank you that you thought it was funny. I didn't. But realistically, I mean, it's like the art world, right? It's worth as much as somebody's willing to pay for it. There may be frauds. There may be clones. It really just comes down to what you see and what you want to do. Sadly, we have taxation now on cryptocurrency that also does apply to NFTs. right? So if I'm buying and selling NFTs, is it just like I'm buying and selling art in the real world? We're paying tax on that too, to the government, right? That you know how we have free ports here in America where you store all your really expensive art that don't pay taxes on it and don't ever go and look at it, but you use it as like a money laundering thing? Welcome to NFTs. Use it for money laundering and use it for free porting on the internet in another digital realm. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you can really dig into here. A lot of interesting uses. Get creative. Keep thinking. I like it. All right. So we talked about original art. Right? We talked about crafted, painted, original, something that is just made that in and itself is unique, right? Which is very cool. There's only one Mona Lisa. Okay. Are you ready for this, nerds? Generative art. All right. The background is one of the most sought after and highly priced pieces of generative art on the internet today, known as the Bored Ape Yacht Club. That's a weird language thing I was trying to do there, but Bored Ape Yacht Club. All right. Can anybody, especially online, tell me what's going on in this picture? What is unique about this? It's just a bunch of pictures of animals wearing different hats and glasses. Anybody? Watch this. What if we make art with code? Now, I'm not talking necessarily like Selenium, like this Ethereum programming language we've been talking about now. Just, normal code, Python, stuff like that, right? Node, JS, right? Okay. What if we made our computer make art for us and then we applied value to that? I'm a millionaire now, apparently, right? That's how you do it. And so this is very different than original crafted art. This is software making art for us. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take multiple layers of multiple varieties. We're going to randomly select a variety for each stacked layer, and then we're going to flatten them. What? Right? What happened? No, hold on a second. So you're telling me that the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that's worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars per NFT, is really just different animals with different hats as layers and different glasses as layers and different backgrounds as layers? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Now, each of those layers may have been originally curated, right? But we use a piece of software to randomly pick a hat, randomly pick a smile, randomly pick a pair of glasses, randomly pick a background, and flatten that image. And that is the simplest form of generative art. That is what's taking over the NFT art scene today, right? We took, 7 layers with 30 attributes each, randomized them in some code, and output 10,000 images into a collection, and you can own one of them. The one with the party hat, the cigarette, and the gold chain. Or you could own the one with the baseball cap, and the hater blockers, and the grill with the rainbow background, right? Like, this is seriously what we've come to in the world of NFT art. I mean, just real quickly, has anybody actually seen this before today's talk, as far as like, why should I care about some stupid animal wearing a funny hat and a t-shirt as an NFT? Like, Twitter! Oh, don't get me started about Twitter. Twitter is now letting you pick one of your NFTs from your wallet and make it your icon for your profile. But they're distincting who's using cool NFTs, but not making your profile picture a circle anymore, but a hexagon. Anyways, make fun of people that have hexagons. Anyway, that's all. I believe it's an hexagon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a shape of sides. The point is, Twitter lets you change your profile picture to your NFT, but it It's not like the JPEG that you uploaded. It's actually the one from your wallet to validate that you truly own it. So cool, man. Welcome to the future. I'm sorry, Chris. To the future of NFT art. I made 7 hats, 3 smiles, 2 different types of eyebrows, a weird earring set, and t-shirts. And I used code to permutate through all the possible combinations and output that collection and sold each one. Done. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So here's the fun part, why you should care. Right? I feel like I really got everybody like super focused and interested right now, right? You want to go out and buy an NFT. You want to go out and make NFTs. You want to go and like do all this cool stuff. All these celebrities are getting NFTs today. Can anybody name, especially the online listeners, can anybody name a celebrity that is in the NFT game today, collector or curator? Serena Williams, great one. I'm going to go out and I'm going to say, what was that? Mila Kunis is doing one too. Wow, good for her. Good for her. So she's making tickets. She's using the utility of tickets as NFTs to her concert shows. Sweet, it's happening in the real world, people, not just online. Ozzy Osbourne recently came out with an NFT. He is still alive. And his is called Crypto Bats. I'm not endorsing it. Please don't go and just buy it because I said so. But the idea is that celebrities are getting behind it. Snoop Dogg's NFT failed because of some legal issue. So it's cool. It is so cool, people. Buy my NFT, bro. Like, that's what's happening. There's a lot of like people running the field here, and they're saying, I want to get on top of this fad. I want to get behind it. I want to show who are my true fans. Buy my NFT. Very famous electronic music group Boys Noise released a set of NFTs that is not just an image, but it's an animated image accompanied by a sound clip of music. Very cool. Now, there may be benefits in the future. For instance, you get to go to their concert, right? If you own the NFT, you log into the website with your wallet, and then it gives you the ability to buy tickets, so it's a unique NFT holder experience. There's utility. I'm sorry, but that's a utility. That's a use. But we're seeing this, right? But let me tell you the real reason why you should care. First off, I hope Facebook fails, but the metaverse. Remember I talked about art galleries? This is a real art gallery in the metaverse featuring NFTs, many of which are generative art and some original arts too. But I don't know how to stress this enough. Does anybody remember Second Life? Yes, Second Life. Online people, do you remember Second Life? 2007, knocking at your door. I don't know where you were, but I was in college. And we had a professor that made us attend a class in Second Life. It's because I went to UCF. Go Knights.
They're still doing that.
Anyways, I hope so. And so what's happening is, like all trends, things are coming right back around. We tried to do that in 2007. It wasn't great. I think it was too advanced for the time, right? But we're really pumping metaverse now. We're already immersed in VR culture, where people are wearing headsets to experience foreign lands, games like Beat Saber, right? But we finally hit the point in our lives where VR is common, right? Everybody, I imagine, knows somebody with a VR headset. And then maybe even has tried it yourself. It's quite immersive. Careful with the motion sickness, but it's a really interesting concept. Now, the Ready Player One, anybody? Okay, we're not there yet. Right? We're not a bunch of Wall-E riding around on our little floaty things, doing this completely devoid of the world around us. But we are starting to come back to this concept of metaverse, and we're doing things like land ownership in metaverse, and we're doing things like experiences in metaverse, like concerts, promotions. Samsung, Adidas, Miller Lite, These are all brands that today have a presence in a metaverse, because the concept of metaverse is just a noun. It's a place or a thing that does stuff, right? Isn't that what I said earlier? Okay. And there's many metaverses, right? Just as much as there's many websites. The metaverse is the environment that is created by some organization, right? And there's the popular metaverses today are stuff like Sandbox, alpha only, and Decentraland, right? Decentraland is huge. Anybody can log into this thing, pop right in there. This is taken from Decentraland. You buy a plot of land and you build a house on it or an art gallery, and then you put in code that looks at your wallet and features all of your different NFTs all over the walls, and you show it off. Look at your e-peen, right? It's really interesting, but yeah, so these major brands are starting to realize the value of the market that can be targeted through metaverse activity and metaverse advertising, all right? Because this is a direction that we are kind of heading into, whether we like it or not. Now, metaverse doesn't necessarily mean VR goggles. We're not jumping in, right? A metaverse can be explored just like Second Life on your computer monitor, okay? And just like the good old days and even standard topographical maps, you wander around this world and everything has plots and addresses and coordinates, right? And those NFTs show ownership through deeds. So, question from here.
So there was that metaverse yacht. That, I don't know if you know about the yacht that somebody bought.
Yeah.
Metaverse yacht for $650,000.
Yep. And
It's not even a real yacht. But
damn right. In fact, so the kind of question goes to the yacht purchase experience in the metaverse. And what was happening there was that an NFT was created and published as a smart contract, as a set of figure, like 3D modeling code, right, was published, and the smart contract pointed to the set of code. And then when you're in the game looked for 3D models that were relevant to it. And when you're in the game and you have your wallet as part of your authentication, boom, yacht, right? And it's crazy. And so there was a market for this stuff, right? So what's cool is that NFTs play a major role in metaverse, just like I talked about games, where your avatar, your hat, your shirt, your pants, your wings, your golden gun, right, are all NFTs that can be experientially viewed in the metaverse. And again, I'm not going to sit here and promote the metaverse. I think it's absolutely crazy. And I bet people online are like, yeah, metaverse or meh metaverse, right? But it has a very, very close relationship to NFTs. One of the cool things that's actually lucrative with NFTs in the metaverse is if you're good at 3D modeling, like Blender, you can create that baseball cap, right? Or you can create this really cool set of stairs that can be used by other players, and you can create this NFT, 3D model this stuff, publish it to the game as an owner, and then you can sell it to other people as an 1155. So you can make 1,000 baseball caps and sell them, right? Now we're talking money. Hey, this is pretty cool, right? I'm terrible at Blender. I realize that. I just tried to do it the other day. I want to make a clown nose. Like I thought, like, all right, level of entry, ease of entry. What's the easiest thing you can do? Oh, a red sphere. Yeah, no, that was hard. That was really hard to do. I'd love to talk to anybody. Please reach out if you actually know how to use Blender well. I saw a hand because then that means that I have $1 million idea for you. So, okay. Just to recap, the past hour and a half, I've been rambling on up here about blockchains and Explorer and smart contracts and the concept of uniqueness in the world that we live in, and tickets for concerts and celebrities and art that's unique versus generated by a computer, not painted by a person or on a stencil or da-da-da. All right, let's make some money. The easiest way to mint, right? Mint is the term for to publish, to create, to form an NFT. there's something called OpenSea. OpenSea is like the eBay of NFTs. It is truly an explorer of the Ethereum blockchain and other blockchains too, Polygon and so on, but that's not the point. It is the explorer that allows users to buy and sell NFTs by triggering those smart contract transfers on the user's behalf. Follow me? I mean, technically, you can interact with the blockchain yourself through an explorer, and you can literally go straight to the code and run the transfer function, but the transfer function is going to validate who's running it, and it's going to say, well, you're trying to transfer this NFT, and you do not own it, so no transfer. And so what OpenSea is helping you do is it's helping you facilitate those function calls, those smart contract function calls on the blockchain so that users' experiences is as simple as clicking through a website GUI. Pretty clever. And they take a massive cut. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I'm just talking in the profits section. So how do you upload your own NFT to OpenSea? You click the upload button. You go to create. I mean, I'm just kidding. You have to create a collection first. Oh no, you have to have like a category of images. So you create a collection first. But really, you click the create button after authenticating into the site with your MetaMask wallet. And because that's how we know where the NFT is, who is owned by. We validate that, right? And you upload your file. And I'm just going to kind of read off a couple of these real quickly. JPEG, PNG, GIF, SNG, MP3, WebM, MP3 WAV, OGG, OBG, Vorbis, GLB, blah, blah, blah. Oh, GLB. Huh. Weird. 3D models. Huh. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Anyways, OpenSea makes it really easy to interact with smart contract function calls through a web GUI that anybody can do. That's really all this is. This is a big old explorer focusing on NFTs and wallets and the function calls of those NFTs, including stuff like mint and transfer. What was that? OpenSea did not get hacked. People steal other people's private keys, access their wallets, and transfer the NFTs to other wallets. And because OpenSea is an explorer, it also has the ability to decide what it doesn't explore, therefore making it not easy to call the function of transfer, therefore theoretically stopping the future sale of stolen goods.
That's not the big thing.
Yeah, like the
A few weeks ago, there was
changing the
an
prices.
API vulnerability where you were able to access prior pricing by the API.
Ah, okay, yes. Your mic wasn't on with that, so I'll kind of just reiterate it. But yes, there was a vulnerability focused on API access that allowed manipulation of a price based on a previous price. And yes, this is part of it, right? You know, the Explorer itself had application bugs. Luckily, smart contracts were not necessarily affected by this. Again, smart contracts are the function calls of ownership verification and transfer and minting. The application, the Explorer itself, is what handles all of the calls and interactions and failed to properly verify amounts that were happening while calling those functions. So anyways, go ahead, upload your stuff, have fun. You too create an NFT. I got a buddy of mine who like took a bunch of copyrighted stuff and was like, this is stupid. Upload them all the NFTs to OpenSea, right? And what's OpenSea gonna do? Well, all they can do is just block the viewing of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not now written to the blockchain and not part of the ledger, not permanently there. Interesting stuff, but there's, again, I'm not an attorney, legal aspects, copyright, trademark, and so on. But this is easy mode, so go give it a try sometime, people. A lot of fun. All right, let's talk about how do we generate art, right? I gave you the concept of, all right, so you take a bunch of eyebrows and hats and T-shirts. I'm not going to spend hours permutating through all these layers in Photoshop, turning them on and turning them off, and saving each image one at a time. No. We have code. We have a lot of code for that. So how do you make generative art? Well, you define your layers, right? You make lots of variations per layer because, again, it's permutation here. If you want to release a collection of 10,000, you need, X to the Y, layers to the varieties, okay? How do we do all this? Well, you're on your own for the art part. Like, I'm not drawing a bunch of eyeballs and hats, right? However you achieve that, that's up to you. But what you do have is you have something like Hashlips, really, really good open source tool that you can download off the internet, and you basically point it at all of the layers that you've created, and then it goes through and does it all for you. Boom, output, gallery, upload OpenSea, money. Something works like that. But no, really. So you get the Hashlips art engine on GitHub. Step 1. Step 2, art a bunch of layers, some backgrounds, some hats, some kitten bodies, some glasses, some mouthies, right? Layers, make all layers, right? You organize those bodies, ears, mouths, hair, facial hair, glasses, jewelry, hats into folders. And you create a config file that has all the names of the folders. And then you click print money, go burr. Yeah, it's really interesting, right? So you put all them all there, you set the layer order, you add some meta, like this is a hat number 1, it's a cool hat, this is hat number 2, this is a party hat. And you go. Really, yes, it's a little bit more than that, but conceptually, like anybody can do this. Hashlips has some really good resources on their YouTube. So please check it out. So Hashlips NFT is the YouTube channel, and github.com/hashlips is how you turn these things into these things. Check it out. I mean, you can spend hours watching the videos, and like, there's so much content on this YouTube account. I mean, this YouTube account is a great account, but this YouTube account may make you money in a different way that this YouTube account will. So check it out. This I think is probably the easiest level of interest. I mean, other than, like I said, turning on and off all the layers yourself in your Photoshop tool and save, okay, layer, hide view, save, hide view, right? This does it all for you. Super cool. Makes it really easy to import into stuff like OpenSea or write a smart contract and upload it to IPFS. It's constantly under development, and there's just new features and new capabilities coming out all the time. So this is how I plan to do it when I make generative art one day, and I think you would like it too. But again, this is literally how all those big collections, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and what's the other one? Punks, CryptoPunks, right? Welcome to generative art. Anybody can do it. Well, not anybody. Again, you have to draw like a lot of hats. But, all right. The next easiest type of NFT that anybody can create is those proof of attendance protocol tokens that I talked about, right? In fact, it's so easy, even you can do it. And you, and you, and you. And this is how we do it. We make an art in a PNG format. We make sure that it's 500 by 500 pixels, or more recently discovered 1020 by 1020 pixels. But you have to keep it under 200 kilobytes in constraint size, which is very hard to do. Thank you, yeah. You want it round in shape. Remember Pogs? Yeah. So you want it round in shape, right? And then you want to make sure that transparent layer is around that circle that is round in shape. And you have just arted your first proof of attendance protocol token. And so what do you do with it? Well, you visit the back office at the Pope website. And now, proof of attendance protocol is a community, more actually potentially a company, in the sense that they've developed an application, and a decentralized application, to allow people to quickly and easily mint these proof of attendance protocol tokens for their events and for their memories. And so all you do is you go and you say, well, what am I commemorating? Well, I'm commemorating Neon Temple's WTF or NFTs talk that happened on February 10th, 2022. And we say, okay, well, tell us a little bit about it. Because remember, our memories, we want to have some context as we look back through our NFT history. And again, other stuff about when it was dropped and where it was dropped and is there a website relevant to it. And finally, upload that picture of your new proof of attendance protocol NFT. Very cool. What's going to happen is you're going to get an email. And congratulations. I just now minted 100 of these really cool tokens. I have a question from the internets.
So this is a question regarding specifically smart contracts. Do you have a tool, site, software that a beginner can use to start with smart contracts?
Yes. So to start with smart contracts, great question, by the way. There's a tool set from Ethereum called Remix, and it's remix.ethereum.org. Additionally, most smart contracts today can be authored in VS Code if you're familiar with the platform, and you can import stuff around Solidity. And additionally, there are smart contract auditors that do code verification for potential bugs. It's a wonderful industry to be in, and I think it's only growing from here. But if you really want to start, there is a NFT-focused smart contract library called Open Zeppelin. Look it up, and they actually have a wizard generator on their site on how to create the main format and functional code framework for an NFT specifically, and essentially just give you the option to plug in all your variables, like the name of your NFT collection, how much you want to sell them for, and all the other fun stuff. And so, the library is called Open Zeppelin, and the IDE is called Remix. And that is on ethereum.org. And hopefully that answers your question. So, now that we've filled out the form on the Proof of Attendance Protocol website, you get a cute little email that says, congratulations, we are creating your Proof of Attendance tokens, these little NFTs. And you can give them out as you feel. You tell me how many you want to make or mint. And so I happen to make 100. For this example. And it's really that simple, right? And now, our keen members may be seeing something here. Are you telling me there's actually an NFT for tonight? Yeah! Guess what, members? I'm talking to you! All right? If you are in as a member, we'll be dropping the Proof of Attendance Protocol minted NFT that you just saw for this example tomorrow in Discord, and you have to be a member to claim that NFT. Some of the prerequisites are hopefully you have a wallet address, and we'll make it really easy for you to claim. Now, I'm gonna grab my water. I'll be right back. 1 second. Much better. I've been talking for 2 hours, people. All right, that's the big surprise. Right, so everybody who's watching this, you're in the know. You will be receiving an NFT on the Discord. So please reach out to any of the Neon Temple folks to borrow, and we'll make it very clear how to receive and retrieve your NFT, and that goes to everybody. So if not, and if you're watching this and you want in, join today. Cool. Had to plug, right? How'd I do? Did I plug it well? Okay. We are literally 10 minutes to the top of the hour. It is exactly where I wanted to be. I would like to first off say thank you, and I want to open up this to questions regarding any of the material that was covered today, or generally crypto-related things, hopefully. And so I'll kind of push it back to you, everybody watching online and around the world, if there's any questions. And I see a question from here.
So if you have an NFT contract, it's supposed to make it the one and only, the valid, the secure, mega secure contract.
Yep, a 721 contract. It's a one of one.
One of one. If you have that, who's to say that hasn't been superseded by something materially?
So materially in the real world versus something digital in the blockchain world are completely abstracted from each other. And so what's happening in the real world and what's happening in the blockchain world are independent and don't necessarily cross paths unless some human decides that they are both of interest.
So if someone says, I have the title to that house, and somebody else says, but I have another title to that house,
So
in paper,
okay, so the question regards around titles and ownership and things like that, or and paper, right? And that really comes down to the municipality's decision to have a digital form versus a physical form. But the real challenge is the authenticity of that digital form and the authenticity of that physical form. For instance, thanks to the technology of the blockchain, we can trace an NFT all the way back to its creation and identify who was the creator, therefore validating that if the creator was indeed your local tax office or your local municipality, then therefore the chain of transfers and custody landing on you shows that you are at least indeed the holder of that NFT at that given point in time. How you got it may be a mystery. How it was transferred to you, who knows? The point is you cryptographically can show proof of ownership of authenticity from its origin through that ledger of transfers. It's all documented from start to finish. Now, why somebody has a physical form and why somebody has a digital form and there's a dispute over it comes down to which form is valid at the time and or who should be the proper owner. For instance, how did you get that NFT in the first place? Was it stolen and transferred to you? Or did you purchase it from somebody who maybe have also stolen and transferred to you? And so there has to be a
would the
real world
validity
bridge.
of an NFT surpass the validity of a written document?
An NFT versus a written document validity, one would never supersede another without an actual legal binding contract. Smart contracts aren't legal binding contracts in the sense of a lawyer. What they are is it's a smart contract that should be called a smart function code set. We call it a contract because it is generally function binding, as in what it calls for will determine the outcome, but it's not, an NFT doesn't necessarily, through its smart contract aspect, doesn't necessarily define legal ownership, legal entity, legal anything, right? That is very much a real world problem in a digital space. So the concept of the word contract and smart contract should be carefully not confused with a legal binding contract where applicable in any given country, municipality space in the physical world. They're very much different things. And I can see that overlap or that bridge happening sometimes and not happening other times. So we're not there yet. Like, we're not saying this is what is going to prove something, but there are already examples of utility outside of necessarily deed and land ownership that are functioning. Like I said, tickets to concerts, membership passes, things of that nature. But really, I think in the case of a property deed, an NFT of it is just cool. It doesn't actually serve a function yet, until maybe we digitalize our real world into the virtual world as a metaverse and have an exact clone of our land in Meta Geo Earth. Right? Question?
So, clarification. So with the property, from what I understand is that you were transferring the property deed, is you were transferring the LLC that owned the property with the NFT.
Again, that's legal. That's real world legal mumbo jumbo. The question regards around the ownership of that property deed, even down to like an individual or an LLC being a separate party entity. None of that matters in the NFT world. Like, again, all of that stuff is applicable if somebody cares in the real world. It's the same thing as putting a trademarked item on a printed material that you don't own the trademark. Like, somebody's going to come down on your ass from a legal aspect and unless the environment of function around the ownership of that NFT has the structure and capability to prove anything out of it, none of it really matters. Again, a lot of this is very theoretical, but we are starting to see experience and asset management through NFTs and blockchain technologies. We're just not applying it to everything yet because the adoption is years off, right? Other question?
Yeah, so I was kind of going in the same direction as
I'm very much a futurist about this.
Except with like a land trust, you could use an NFT in theory to transfer like a land trust or maybe future rights to a land trust.
Okay, and so
Electronically.
to reiterate regarding transfer of land trusts and electronic transfer of that, let me touch on an NFT project that's currently in play right now. So a company bought a large plot of land out somewhere in West America and is selling NFTs to individual parcels on that plot of land. And by owning an NFT in this community, you, one, I believe, can visit your parcel should you ever want to, but two, participate in governance of that community. For instance, voting rights within the governance of this community through the ownership of that NFT, right? And so there are examples of real world physical deed-like aspects, but at the end of the day, this company actually owns all the land and you own a parcel as a community member of this real estate company.
So NFTs for HOAs?
NFTs are a terrible choice.
I'm just saying, that's what you just explained.
No.
Basically, it's like an HOA. is
Yeah,
what
where
you're
it's a
saying.
share. And an
Oh,
NFT
that's what you're saying. I'm sorry. Here.
Timeshare.
Yeah.
And potentially could be because that means you could sell it to somebody else, right? And allow them to enjoy the experience of that parcel through that company. And that's just, again, this is just one example, right? And I don't want to delve too much into the concept of tangible items when it comes to NFTs. I do want to focus on the ridiculousness of the art aspect, but NFTs are slowly creeping their way into everyday life, whether we know it or like it. And so I'd rather you understand it and get ahead of it than fall victim to the latest Ponzi scheme.
Well,
So.
the provability of the NFT is a potential advantage. So, because for example, with a land trust, only a piece of paper in my safe proves.
Well, a land trust though is still a tangible. Think of it as a real world NFT. There's only one of those pieces of paper, and you happen to hold it. Should it get stolen from you? Shit sucks. Should you decide to sell it? That's also an acceptable manner. Now, is there a ledger of you selling it? Generally, there is of some sort in some government entity, but again, I don't want to get into like the clever trickery of common law and what's going on today within society when it comes to ownership of land assets and tangible things, because that's a game in itself that people tend to play already with tax code and with other kind of ownership codes. For instance, here in the state of Florida, how do you get a suppressor? Well, you make it owned by a trust because the laws say that it can be owned by a not person, right? And so there's loopholes and there's way around a lot of this stuff. And this is a very different type of conversation from a legal aspect of what's going on in the NFT world. We haven't bridged that yet, but in a virtual metaverse, that NFT is going to prove ownership of that virtual land, period. So hopefully that gets it. Any other questions online? Are we ready to wrap this thing up? Well, listen, I want to thank everybody who tuned in this evening and everybody who's watching this recording in the future. Please be sure to check out the Neon Temple. Remember, members, that you will be getting some information tomorrow. That is the 11th of February, 2022, in the Discord regarding how to claim your Proof of Attendance Protocol NFT. I want to thank everybody tuning in online. Thank you for who attended this evening. Big shout out to all the folks here who make the Neon Temple happen on a day-to-day basis and what you're doing for the community. And so with that, thank you very much. Have a good one.